afternoon, good day, whatever time of day it is. It's Sunday School with Aunty Pé, and welcome. I'm Aunty Pé. So this morning or today, we're gonna talk or continue our talk about what Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is, or the kingdom of God is. So last week we would have spoken about three ways Jesus gave us parables about what the kingdom of God is. So he described the kingdom of God as the kingdom. Well, we had the story, the parable of the east, we had the parable of the seeds, and we have the parable of the sower. All right. And these parables, the mustard seed, sorry, not just seeds, mustard seed. These parables told us a little bit, gave us an idea of what heaven is. So remember, parables are earthly stories with a heavenly meaning. So Jesus gave us these stories not just for just telling a story's sake, but to give us an example of what or what he wants us to live up to. So we continue our today with what the kingdom of heaven is, and today we're going to describe it as treasure. So we know treasures are things that usually we find or pirates look for, or persons who dig may find gold, and your treasure could be anything. It could be jewels, it could be riches as far as the eye can see. If you watch these shows about pirates traveling to different lands, you would see X marks the spot. If you ever saw the show National Treasure, you would see that they were looking for the treasure of gold hidden under the city. So we have different ways to describe treasure. Now, depending on who you ask, they might tell you a treasure is a different thing. Some people, what are some things people treasure? So some people may want or give attention to gold, money. These are things that they treasure. But then somebody else might treasure or give attention to people who they love, people who their daughters, their sons, their grannies, their grandpas, their aunties, their uncles, their mummies, their daddies, all these people. Those are the things that they are treasure. Those are the things that mean a lot to them. And some people might think getting into the kingdom of God is a treasure. That's something that you find, and the only way you can get into and feel good about yourself is by getting into the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of God. And some people think that is the treasure. So let's see what Jesus said about the kingdom of heaven being a treasure. All right. So we have the kingdom of God, and remember I said it can be either the kingdom of God or the kingdom of heaven. So last week we described it as the kingdom of heaven, knowing that it means the same thing. This week we say the kingdom of God. So the kingdom of God is a treasure. So what does the kingdom of God, what does Jesus say the kingdom of God is like? So let's choose a chest, any chest, any chest. I want to go, I'm the firstborn, so I like number 1. So we can try number 1. So we open this chest. So remember again, we are all about treasures and treasure chests. So we have 8 treasure chests here. And we're going to see what God talks about as a treasure. So we have in this first treasure chest, we have the Bible verse, Matthew chapter 13, verses 44. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, which someone found and hid. And then in his joy, he goes and sells all that he has and buys the field. So here we see somebody finds a treasure. Let's say a treasure chest filled with jewels, filled with riches, filled with all these things. So because he found this, he knows that this land that is on, he can't take it. All right? This is not his to have. So he can't take it. But instead, what he does is he goes to all that he has, he sells it. So he sells his house, he sells his car, he sells, well, not his car, but his camels, his horses, anything that he had that was worth something, he sold it, went to the person who owned the land, bought the land from them, and now the treasure is his. Because anything that you find on your own land is yours. All right? in those days. All right, that was the law. Anything that you found in those days on your land, it's yours. So this is what the kingdom of heaven is like. It's like telling you you found something that you think is worth more than anything that you already have. So he already had houses, he already had camels, he already had horses, but he didn't want those things. He thought the treasure was worth more than he had. And this is what Jesus is trying to show you. That when you find something that is worth a lot more than what you already have, don't you want to keep it and hold on to it? So you will do anything that you have to keep it and hold on to it. So the kingdom of God is just like that. The kingdom of God is the treasure that he found. So he sold all his earthly gifts to get the kingdom and to keep the kingdom of God and to ensure that that is his riches. All right. So let's go back to our chest. So we found one chest. So let's try and see what we find in chest number, I don't know. Let me see. I have 7 siblings. So I might do one for my brother. He's the 4th child. So let's try number 4. See if 4 has anything. Right. So we have here again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls. On finding one pearl of great value, he went and sold all that he had and he bought it. All right. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls. On finding one pearl of great value, he went and sold all that he had and bought it. So here again, we see the merchant finding a pearl. Now, in those days, for you to be a merchant, you had to have already riches. You have things. A merchant is somebody who sells things. So imagine a store or grocery owner, all right? So they would have already have clothing to sell. They would already have stock, things to keep, all right? But on finding this pearl, and a pearl is a treasure, a pearl is something that you have to, that is worth a lot of money and worth a lot of whatever you want to give for it. So when he found this pearl, he said, you know what, this pearl is worth more than anything I have. So again, we see the merchant selling what he had. So he would have sold all his goods. He would have sold everything that he had to come and purchase this one pearl. Now, you might think to yourself, but you have all these things to sell. Why you want to sell that just for one pearl? But he thought that pearl was of great value and worth more than anything else in the world. That he said, you know what, I need to have this pearl because it is worth it. And this is what Jesus is showing us, that the kingdom of heaven is worth more than anything in the world. So to give up all the things that you think are important and follow the teachings of God. That is what he's trying to show us here. That the kingdom of heaven is worth it. It is worth more than anything. It's worth more than gold, silver, bronze. It's worth more than oil. It's worth more than pearls, diamonds, or rings. It's just worth it. It's worth more than you have, and sell all that you have to receive the kingdom of God. Now, the good thing about it is that we don't have to necessarily sell our land and sell our cars and sell anything. We don't really have to do that because the kingdom of heaven is free to us, free to discover, free to wonder, free to go and feel free. Let me say that. Feel free to go and ask and inquire how you face the kingdom of God. And you're already on the right path because you're here in Sunday school. So you're already on the right path in getting to the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of God. Because you're here, you're asking questions, you want to know. And this is the thing that help us get there. All right? So let's try one more. Let's try which one of these just to go with? Let's see if we find a treasure in 5. No, we don't. We don't have a treasure in 5. So let's try 6. So we found another treasure. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that, let me just move myself a little bit. Right. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was thrown into the sea and caught fish of every kind. When it was full, they drew it ashore, sat down, and put the good into basket, but threw out the bad. So it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come out and separate the evil from the righteous and throw them into the furnace of fire, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So this kind of reminds me of the parable that Jesus told previously with the thorns and the weeds and the wheat, sorry. So last week we saw that both the weeds and the wheat had to grow together, because if we uprooted the weeds, we would be uprooting the wheat, which is something that we want. We want the wheat. We didn't want the weeds. But we couldn't pull up the weeds, because pulling up the weeds would mean that we're pulling up the thing that we want. So both of them had to grow together, and it's only when we were ready to harvest, then we would separate the good from the bad. And we saw that Jesus will do that at the end of the day. He will separate the good from the bad. And here's another example of Jesus separating the good from the bad. We took the net. Now everybody has the same net. Everybody got caught in the same net. Whether it was good fish, bad fish. Well, okay, so we're looking for red fish, but we get some flatfish, we get some moonshine, we get some herring, we get some shark and all. We don't want that. We just want red fish. All right? So they brought all the fish together onto the shore and started to separate the red fish from the things that they don't want. So the good fish from the fish that they don't want. All right? And what they wanted, they kept, and what they didn't want, they threw away. All right? And this is what Jesus will do at the end of the age, at the end of the day. When we all reach the end of our life, we will have to figure out whether we are good fish or we are fish that Jesus don't want. We will have to figure out if we are wheat or if we are weeds. And by finding the kingdom of heaven and understanding that it is a treasure, we understand that it is worth it. Getting into the kingdom of heaven is worth more than anything you could have here. Doing sin and doing things that please you just because you can get it done now, and things that Jesus specifically said do not do. It may seem nice, it may seem like we want it and we could do it and we could get it, but is it worth it? Is it worth it in the long run? And you have to ask yourself this. Is doing wrong worth it in the end? Yes, it might be worth it now here on earth, but at the end of the day, do you want Jesus to think of you as good fish or bad fish? Do you want to be thought of as wheat, or would you want to be thought of as a weed? So remember this week. Try to ask yourself this week, is it worth it? Is doing that worth it? Is doing sin worth it? Is disobeying mommy worth it in the end? Is disobeying any grown-up worth it? Not doing your homework, is it worth it in the end? All right, so that's a task for the week. Ask yourself, is it worth it? Okay? And as we go on, we found our last treasure. So our last treasure is our book of parables. So remember, we continue as we go along, we figure out what our book of parables is all about. So we have, excuse me. So first we would have met this will be our 6 parables about the kingdom of heaven. All right, then we had the parable of the sower, first thing first, where we had different types of seeds and where the seeds fell, those seeds that fell on rocky ground, those seeds that fell on good soil, those seeds that fell in the thorns and were choked out. And then we had our 3 parables from last week about the kingdom of heaven. whether the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, it's like yeast, and it is also like wheat. And well, we had a parable about wheat and weeds. This week we had the parables of the merchant, so with the pearl, and we had the parable with the treasure. So the man who found the treasure and then sold everything he had and bought the earth. And then we had the parable of fishes and the nets. So we have 6 parables for you to choose from that you add to your book of parables. Remember, at the end of the parables, we will see and we will compile our book together and share and continue to share, and I will show you my book as it comes along. Okay, so we have, right, so this again, we're going to do a song today. We're going to continue learning the song that we learned a while back, and it's now our opening theme song. So you would have seen me dancing in the beginning of the video. So I'm going to teach you all the actions to that song. Okay, so this is the song that we're going to learn. And it's called God is For Me by Lifetree Kids Maker Fun Camp Factory. Yeah, so the actions go simply like this. Let me just make me a little bigger for you to see me. Right. So it goes looking out at this great big world. So looking out, make binoculars. Looking out at this great big world. Where do I go? Ask the question, where do I go? How do I fit in? So fit in. So looking out at this great big world. Where do I go? How do I fit in? Got to keep this one thing, so it should be one thing on my mind. The maker of all the universe is on my side. All right? So, gotta keep this one thing on my mind. The maker of all the universe is on my side. And the chorus goes, if God is for me, who could be against me? All right. So if God is for me, who could be against me? He is my strength. Let me see those hands. Strength. He is my friend. So friend is like this. Friend forever. He is my friend forever. All right. So let's go. Let's try it again. And if God is for me, who could be against me? All right. If God is for me, who could be against me? He is my strength. He is my friend forever. All right. If God is for me, who could be against me? All right, and we repeat this first verse again. It's okay. We'll just follow along. And then we have a verse, which is about the third verse, that goes, when I just don't understand, God is for me. When life doesn't go the way I plan, God is for me. So let's try that again. When I just don't understand, God is for me. When life doesn't go the way I plan, God is for me. All right? So let's try it. 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 I don't know why we just disappeared. Right, so let's try it from the top.
Thanks for watching Lifetree Kids.
Looking out, it's a great big world. Where do I go? How do I fit in? Gotta keep this one thing on my mind. The maker of all the universe is on my side.
this is one of my favorite songs, and you all know this. And it's just a gentle reminder that you should just be good, because nothing and no one who could be against you if God is for you. All right? Nobody can be against you if God is for you. So this week, thank you. We've learned about the kingdom of God and what the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven is said to be like because of Jesus. Remember, parables are stories, earthly stories with a heavenly meaning. So those, it simply means that these are stories Jesus tells us that have a background and give us an idea of what heaven is like and what we should strive to be like to get to heaven. So we learn that the kingdom of heaven is described as um something as small as a mustard seed that spreads all the way out, all the way out. Remember that mustard seed that's tinier than your fingertips, but it spreads wide out, wider than you could ever see. We said it's like yeast that rises is really, really small, and it just keeps going and going and going and going and going, and it explodes out and just spreads. We also said the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure that we will do anything for, that we will do anything, whether it is to sell everything that we own, because nothing is more important than that treasure. We described it like a pearl. Again, we see the merchant sold everything because he understood that nothing was more precious, nothing was worth more than that pearl. We also see how we will be sorted. So, just like the wheat and the weeds that both grew together, got the same sort of nourishment, got the same sort of love and affection, we also see that when time came, and we know that that means when we die, we will be sorted. We will be sorted in the good stuff, the things that we want, the wheat that will be entered into the kingdom of heaven, and the weeds that will thrown into the fire. Which one do we want to be? We also see that Jesus taught us and he gave us the example of fish. The fish, all of them were cast out. All right, all the net was cast out, and all of them came together in the same net. And when the time came and we got to shore, we separated into the fish we wanted and the fish we did not want. All right, and that fish that we did not want got thrown away. So again, this week, I want you all to just think about all the things that are worth it and what is not worth it. All right, what do you want to be? Which one do you want to be? You want to be the fish that was kept and the weeds that was kept, or do you want to be the weeds that were thrown away and burnt, or do you want to be the fish that was thrown away? Think about it. Keep in mind that no matter what, nothing is more important than the kingdom of heaven, and that you have God on your side. So continue this week. I'll see you all next week. We're gonna talk about one of the more popular parables next week. So please, I will see you all next week. Bye. Be good, do good, and be good. Bye.